Welcome to the Glacier Gamble podcast. We are back with another movie review. It's been a while. I can't remember
Been
what
a
was the last.
while.
It's been a while. When was the last movie review we did?
Yeah, dude. Was it Madam
Madam
Web?
Web. Yeah,
Was it Madam Web?
the
So one
better
Sony
Spider-Verse
banger.
movie.
Yeah. One Sony banger to another.
Yep. So Madam Web, a little step down. Now we're in Venom, The Last Dance. So
And then the next one, Craven the Hunter, will be another step down.
I mean, that one we're being sarcastic about Venom, but we don't know about Craven yet, my son.
Yeah.
We're
It's the whole
hunters.
trailer with 2 words. Yeah.
We are hunters, my son.
My son.
So I am biased. We'll get that out of the way. I said that the first 2 times we talked about Venom, the movies. I got my Venom poster or whatever behind me. I got a Venom Funko right here. I do.
You got a Venom tote bag, a little Venom.
I got a little
carrier
Venom
bag.
I did not get the Venom popcorn bucket. I was tempted, but it was $30 for a popcorn bucket that holds less popcorn than a small.
Right.
So
you can stick your fist in there, maybe.
Right. I can fit my fist in there, but not
a
my,
lot of things. Yeah. So you can stick your fist in a lot of things, but
yeah, I try to put my fist in everything. I try to put a few things in everything. But anyway, speaking of which, so Venom. We saw Venom. It was good. It was solid. We didn't talk. Normally, we like sit and have a little powwow, but I had to get home quick after, so we didn't talk too much. So I don't know how you felt about the movie. There was a lot of fun things for those of you who like aren't sure if you want to go see it. There's a lot of fun things with it. I personally don't think you have to see the first 2 to enjoy this one. So if you haven't seen the first 2, I'd still go see it. It's pretty good. It is better if you see the first 2. But I think it's enjoyable. I think there was a lot of enjoyable things, and it had some emotion to it. What did you think about it?
I thought there's 2 things that initially pop into my head. Carnage and Cletus Cassidy would have had a codex, would they not have? Because it's when the person dies and they become fully symbiotic with each other.
Correct. Yep.
So I guess my first question.
Die?
Well, yeah, he was in an electric chair, wasn't he? Or he got the thing, right? He got you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm injecting something.
The lethal injection.
In my thing. Yeah.
But I don't know. Was he fully dead before he took over?
I'm gonna say he was. But also if he was fully symbiotic with Carnage. The way Cletus Cassidy morphed versus the way Venom morphs, Venom is more of like a cocoon.
Yeah.
And Cletus Cassidy was like bonded with blood. So Cletus Cassidy would like rip apart.
Yeah.
Like rip apart and then come back together, which is very brutal looking.
It is and very cool.
And so I'm wondering if they were both fully symbiotic, then like why wasn't Null? Well, this isn't even a spoiler if you watch the trailer. I mean, Null is there.
Yep.
And it says Venom has something that Null wants. Why wasn't Null's plan starting then or earlier? I guess. Like why? Like I get it's for this movie, and I get Sony has no direction on what they're doing, and I get it Sony has once again no direction on what they're doing. But that was a question I had.
So I think, per usual. The answer is probably, so the movie can happen.
Right.
But the more fun thing would be it did. Like his hunt did start. It's just he's been looking for so long that the events of this movie have been taking like course over a while.
Sure.
And possibly the multiversal travel delayed Null a little bit, but I don't think that way makes as much sense.
Right.
But I think
he also wouldn't be on like. I mean, I guess that makes sense because Carnage then died.
Yeah.
And then Eddie left this world. Right. So then, if Null was looking, it would have just disappeared.
And when he left the world, he never morphed fully into Venom, we can assume.
Right.
So I think it's just there was just a delay, but I think the boring answer is to say that it's so the movie can happen. The fun answer is, or just like an answer that actually explains it, is it was just delayed.
Right. And then I think the third act of this movie was kind of a mess. Like, it was all over the place.
Sure.
That's like my initial thought, is like the story made sense and it was all good. And then the third act was just chaos
all over the place. Yeah, so
like it was just all over the place.
So
that like, and I think like they had a direction they wanted to go,
right?
And then
That's
like it's what it seemed like, and then like it just completely changed.
Right, kind of like all
like
of
in
Sony.
in the third act was like, okay, nice, we're gonna have this like super epic banger. Like,
we have a direction we want to go, but we don't know how to get there.
Yeah, and then it's like, and like the xenomorphs, like they're super cool, right? Like they're the symbiote killers, like they're symbiote hunters, and like my son, and and like that's cool, but like it's like they're trying to kill like the pet, I guess. Like, it didn't seem that impactful at the end that they're killing the xenomorphs. Like, I don't know.
There was a couple things that we have talked about from previous Venom, from like Let There Be Carnage, when we talked about that, when we tried to like preview this movie, when we just talked in general, that came up during this movie. One of those is exactly that. When we talked about the xenomorphs, one of the things we mentioned when the trailer was released is, why should we care about this villain? And we had like a whole discussion. Feel free to check it out. We can always link it. You know, if you're watching this, we talked about this.
And then
why should we care about the xenomorphs?
Then that second trailer revealed Null.
Right.
And then it's like, okay.
And
that's
so
why
we're supposed to care,
Null,
but all it felt like was, oh, these are unkillable things that are just gonna never stop. And when we do finally defeat them, the true villain, or the true thing that we're trying to run away from, is still technically out there. We saw him like get locked back up, but then we saw him come back.
And then we saw like in the grand scheme of things, there was like 4 xenomorphs at a time. And throughout the entire movie, or 4 or 5 xenomorphs throughout the entire time. Throughout the entire movie, you get these little glimpses of Null doing stuff, and he's got an army.
Right.
An army, like probably thousands of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And he sends 4 to like get, I don't know, that was also crazy.
Right. When he said go get him, like when they finally found it.
Yeah, there's like portals all over the place.
It seemed like there was a lot less that actually showed up on Earth than he had sent.
Yeah.
So again, that was part of what made it feel haphazard.
It's like the Act 3. Yeah, the Act 3 was kind of confusing.
Yeah, confusing, poorly done, however you want to phrase it.
Right. I thought the first 2 acts were pretty good.
Yeah, like, it felt like a movie. It felt like almost like a dramatic movie at that point, where it was like, hey, this doesn't feel superhero-esque. It feels like they tried to write a good story, so it felt good there. But I
thought much like Sony in general, I think Marvel does a better job of this. But Sony in general, I think they're, and maybe we've talked about this before, but the power scaling of things, like the power scaling of things, like Toxin is stronger than Venom.
Yep, he's supposed to be
straight up.
Yep,
and he's just like holds him back and is like, run, and then dies.
Yeah. Yep, there was we saw a few different. So this is the other one. You transitioned right into what I was going to talk about. It was perfect. The other thing that we talked about in our previous Venom episodes that we asked for is like, we need a bigger symbiote verse, because Venom is so cool and so popular, especially with the addition of these movies. He's become more popular. So one thing we asked for was Null. We got Null. The other thing we asked for is, give us a bunch of the symbiotes, because they're so cool. So, you know, give us Toxin, give us Screech, give us Hybrid, give us
Lasher.
Venomsaurus Rex if you want, but like there's
Right.
like all these different ones that they could have given us that are from the comics. Venomsaurus Rex is believable, or is real, by the way, for those of you wondering, he is real. Give us anti-venom, give us like all these different ones. It'd be super cool. Toxin was there. We got a bunch in this movie. You get a bunch of symbiotes and they actually transform with people, which is cool. It's very awesome to me that they found a bunch of perfect symbiote people, a perfect synchronicity where the symbiote doesn't kill their host like apparently they did in the first Venom. I don't know if that's just something that doesn't exist anymore, but in the first Venom, the reason Eddie Brock is unique is because this is the only host that Venom like isn't killing by coming together with him.
Yep.
But yet every person, every scientist that was taken over by a symbiote was a perfect match and not dying, or what?
Right. Outside of like Riot, but Riot also had control over him.
Right.
So
it was like all these different
Carnage
ones.
and Cletus Cassidy was the closest one to like a perfect symbiosis, like close enough to each other where they were similar to Venom. Like they weren't killing each other, I guess.
Right. And so that just seemed to go away this time, which was weird, but
right.
So outside of that was one of my complaints. I was like, how are all these working?
Right.
Because they aren't all supposed to work. But anyway, so we got Toxin, died immediately. We got Hybrid, didn't die immediately, but eventually died.
For those wondering, Toxin is so strong that Carnage has to ask Venom for help to help beat Toxin.
Yeah.
That's how strong Toxin is.
Toxin, I think it was Screen Rant or Fandom, one of those ones. Toxin is listed as the 3rd or 4th most powerful symbiote.
Yeah.
All Black is the 2nd most powerful, I think, was listed.
Yeah. All Black, the Necrosword.
But but anyway, we got all these. We got a bunch of different ones killed. We got ZZZXX, or I think that's who it was. The one that was like the Iron Spider.
Yeah.
I think it's ZZZXX.
Survived a really long time. Like a really long time.
But like all these ones are super cool from the comics that I was hoping we would get a bunch more Venom movies that were about, like, I was hoping Venom could be like a 5-movie thing.
Sure.
Where they expanded the Venomverse, and the last, like, Venom 3, Venom 4, Venom 5 were all fighting Null. That's what I wanted.
Sure.
And then you eventually...
Like an overarching thing. I think those dreams died in Venom 2. When they killed Carnage.
I agree.
When they killed Carnage. Because, in my opinion, they could have done... especially with... If I was Sony, I would have had Venom or Carnage survive. And then I would have had it transition into Venom showing up in No Way Home. Mm-hmm. I think that was actually perfect. And then I would have done a Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 3. That's what I would have done. And then they come in contact, and Eddie Brock, Carnage gets out again, and it's basically Peter Parker and like Eddie Brock's Venom doing the Maximum Carnage storyline. That's what I would have done. And then I would have done them defeating Carnage again, and then Venom would be fighting Toxin. Toxin would exist, and then Venom having to go ask Carnage for help for Toxin. That's what I would have.
And I think that also covers a few backdoors. So I think outside of Marvel not wanting to give them any properties they may have, but I think you do that, Carnage becomes a 2-movie thing, which again should be, because Carnage is insanely powerful.
Right. And the Maximum Carnage storyline is
the Maximum Carnage storyline. And then if Tom Hardy decides, I'm done with Venom, you can do the Dylan Brock storyline where Eddie's son takes over.
Right. Or Flash Thompson. Or like a Flash Thompson.
Or like a Flash
anti-Venom.
Yeah. Like you could have gone with a transferring, because of the way Venom the symbiote works, you don't have to do like a recasting to make it not make sense. You could genuinely have a new person playing this same character, and it would have made sense, and you could have kept moving forward with this universe, the storyline. I'm not sure, like, I genuinely don't know why they didn't go forward with that sort of thing.
Yeah,
like,
I don't either.
Marvel
I don't
showed
either.
that that was success, like that type of story was successful, and it guarantees extra movies, extra money. And you know, because Venom is the only thing outside of Spider-Man that has been successful for you, it would have kept pumping out money, especially if you did it right, where you all you had to do was make Venom Carnage win the first
Well,
time and lose the second time.
especially, and this is why I mean I think the Act 3 kind of was a cop out for
Mm-hmm.
them, because like why make so much emphasis on trying to get to New York as well?
Yeah. To clear his name.
Yeah, to get to New York, where you probably grew up, you probably went to school there, like you probably could have ran into Peter Parker
I
and
genuinely
been
think it
like,
was for that last scene. And that was it. For him, so
yeah,
he can stare off at Statue of Liberty and say goodbye to Venom.
yeah. See,
So,
that's
spoiler alert for anybody watching right now that wants to avoid spoilers. We talked for about 15 minutes on without a lot of spoilers. You got to know there's going to be additional symbiotes. Everything we've said since to now should just excite you and make you want to go see it. Here's a spoiler alert if you don't want to see it, or if you do want to see it and don't want something spoiled. Venom dies. Does he actually? 99%.
I did the finger quotes.
99% dead. He melts because apparently this all melting acid works on otherworldly things as well. That was another one of those like
this earth thing they used to destroy
to melt
Area
metal
51. Yeah,
that doesn't melt the dirt or anything underneath it, by the way.
yeah, just the metal. Yep.
Just, poking holes again, but there were so many things like I'm again biased. I really enjoyed these movies, all three. I liked this movie, but there were a lot of stupid things.
Sony holes.
The
Yeah.
biggest, like out of all the things we've said, my biggest problem was the very beginning when he comes back through the multiversal travel back to his own world after talking to the bartender about, so this purple alien got rid of, like, turned everybody to dust for 5 years. And then that conversation was boom, boom, done. All right, we're never going to reference the fact that he was in Tom Holland's universe. We're never going to see Tom Holland. We know he's not. Now we have established he doesn't live in 99999
Right. 19999. Yeah.
We know he's not in that universe. We know he's not in the MCU. So great. Now the movie happens. And I was like, why did you, that was so lazy, but you had to do it to tie up a loose end.
Right.
It felt just like the third act where I was like, well, we know we want this to happen, but we don't know how to get there. So let's just have it happen. And it felt really off, but those were, in my opinion, we've covered like everything I disliked about the movie outside of like a couple acting choices, like the scientist lady. There was a couple times where I was like,
yeah,
Dr.
God.
Payne.
Yeah. Man, yeah, that was definitely a topic.
I thought her acting choices were questionable.
See, here's the thing with Marvel and Sony and their relationship or whatever. They ran the
train.
They ran the train. They did Venom 2.
Okay.
They had the post-credit scene where he seemingly shifted into our world, which is fine.
Which was
and
awesome
then Marvel referenced it, and they left this, like, what they decided to do with their movie was to leave the symbiote behind. So like Marvel was like, all right, like we're game putting Venom into this world because Venom is profitable for you guys. So therefore it should, with under our control now, be profitable for us. Well, especially because with the whole like battle on what the Spider-Man story is, I'm pretty sure Feige got his way. Feige and Tom Holland got their way, and it's going to be a nice. I mean, Spider-Man's always going to be good. It's always going to be good. You know what I mean? But now they have the reference to Venom because the symbiotes don't exist in our world. So, yeah, I think that's awesome. But then Sony comes back, But then Sony comes back
But then
and does
Sony.
Venom.
That's it.
But then Sony comes back and does Venom 3, and it seemed like they had a decision they made somewhere throughout this process where they're like, let's stop.
Yeah.
Like let's not do good anymore. And that's confusing
Let's
because
not
like
do movie good.
because like and here's the thing. I think if the order of movies changed, like I think if Kraven the Hunter came out after Venom 1,
Yeah.
I think the Venomverse is a freaking banger because then you could do then Let There Be Carnage would probably be R. And I think it'd be better.
Oh god, that would have been so much better.
But yeah, I don't know. I just think they were going to one way with the movie, and then Act 3 kind of just like confused me. And then I think their thought process going forward was delayed or changed for some reason. So
yeah. I think so. I think we covered a lot of what was bad. But yeah, the acting choices from Dr. Payne, the haphazardness of Act 3, and a little bit of Act 1. But Act 2 was phenomenal, by the way. We can talk about what we really enjoyed. One of which being we got to see a bunch of symbiotes, whether it was partial or not. I got what I wanted there, where I got to see a whole bunch of symbiotes, which was very, very, very cool. We got a lot of Eddie Brock and Tom Hardy doing what he does really well and creating like really good on-screen chemistry with himself, doing a good job of like, I don't know how to explain it very well, but
doing the buddy cop by himself kind of thing.
Yeah, and just I thought he did a good job, and we got to see Venom take over a few different animals, which I know a lot of people said it was like cheesy, corny, but
that was awesome.
The fact that he like turned into a frog and the horse, and I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
I thought
that was sweet. I think they should have done more of that, to be honest.
I think the fish was. I thought the fish was funny.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We got to see a lot of. We got like a little bit of nerdy coolness where it was just something cool happening, kind of for the sake of being cool.
And this fact, the fact they did that with the horse and the frog and the fish and all that stuff, like that was a very cool idea, and they did that well. But now it's making me think, like, what if they have to like run through a zoo? You know what I mean? Like, what if in like what if they did they didn't change this third act and they set it up, say hypothetically, for like a Spider-Man one, with a Spider-Man, and they're at New York and they're at like the New York Zoo and they have to run through a zoo and Venom's taking over a giraffe and an elephant. Like, you know what I mean? How cool that would look. Or he jumps into the tank and gets a shark. Like now you can't do that.
Nope.
So
and see, like one of the things I would have loved to see is like Venom on an insect as well.
Right.
Like, I would love grasshopper Venom, which
cockroach, praying mantis.
We did potentially get him as a insect, which we might get into a little bit. But one thing that they have changed in the Venom verse, the symbiotes that Sony seems to have changed, is Venom came off as like the strongest symbiote in existence. Right. They talk about him as like they reference him as like
the weak one.
Like they talk about him, and then at the end with the xenomorphs, there's like 4 there.
Yep.
And
he just
when they go to like
them and like
so they have like 8 symbiotes that can't fight a single xenomorph.
Right. They can't even beat one 6-on-1.
Right, they can't beat him 6-on-1. The xenomorph devours all of them.
Yeah.
Venom takes on all 4 and then just like takes them over as if he's becoming them and pulls them into where he needs them to go. Like overpowers all of these at once that 8 other symbiotes couldn't take on by themselves.
Yep.
And
Once again,
he's
takes back the power scaling that Sony has.
yeah.
Their power scaling is off.
They made Venom so strong because that like Toxin again is stronger than Venom, and yet Toxin couldn't take a xenomorph on one,
Right.
and Venom took on all of the ones that came to
Yeah,
Earth
they're
at
like
once.
4. Yeah, they're like 4 of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
Just consumes them
not only
all.
that, but is able to have like a conversation while he's holding on to the others ones. He's able to like go and lift the
Yeah.
door and put it on Eddie calmly. He's able to like
Not once breaks focus.
right, not once breaks focus. He doesn't sound like he's struggling while the xenomorphs all are like freaking out as if they're struggling super hard.
Right.
He's able to help the military guy like put the acid down so that
Right.
he can sacrifice them all. And like it was when I was watching, I was like, why is Venom so strong?
Yeah. Yeah.
But like outside of that thing, that scene in itself was very emotional, and I think they did a really good job of portraying good emotion. Like you actually feel something. It's just
Right.
kind of stupid.
Right.
Which speaking of which, another thing I really liked was the family.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
the hippie
I like
family.
that. Yeah, I like the family too. I had one issue with it that I think is kind of apparent for the fans, I guess. But keep going.
What was it? What's the issue?
Just Risa Fons being
Yeah.
the dad and
Yeah.
him being like Nigel or whatever his name was,
The
Walter.
lizard.
Yeah, and he's the lizard. So like,
Yeah.
couldn't you have made him just if it's not the same universe or if it's the same universe, just why didn't you just call him like Kurt Connors? Why didn't you just call him Connors? And they could have made a reference to that. I don't know,
Yeah.
I got back.
So-
He got back after Spider-Man No Way Home and just
One of the
retired.
things I thought about would be maybe they did that on purpose to say it's not Andrew Garfield's universe.
Right.
So he leaves Tom Holland's universe. They show Risa Fons. Yeah, I felt like they were trying to tie up as many loose ends as possible
Right.
to say like, no, we genuinely will not be bringing Venom back at all. Stop trying to connect it to other things because Venom's not coming back. That's
Right.
definitely what it felt like. Because when he first showed up, I like mouthed, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
When he first showed up, I was like, "What the fuck? Like, why
Risa
is
Fons,
he here?"
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Isn't that the lizard?"
Right.
So it was weird, but overall, I did enjoy the movie a lot. I think in what was a chaotic, not terrific, not what I wanted Venom verse, it did tie up the trilogy the way I would expect Sony to have done it.
Sure.
It
Yeah,
didn't
absolutely.
blow me away. It was pretty good, and it leaves confusing question marks that may or may not ever be explained.
Yeah, especially in the Sonyverse.
Yeah,
Of
like
Sony
it's
characters. Yeah.
It's exactly what I expected. This movie
Yeah,
was
100%.
exactly what I expected.
And it's also confusing from the fact that Sony hasn't, and this is just I just thought of this right now. Sony hasn't said what's next.
Nope. Besides Craven.
Besides Craven, which is weird.
Yeah.
Because like we knew about Madam Web, we knew about Venom 3, and we knew about Craven.
Because
before
both
all
Marvel,
this.
like MCU and DCU, give you like a 10-year plan.
Right.
And Sony's
And
like,
so
we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah. But Sony did just give their best product to Marvel. You know what I mean? So
The Spider-Man?
Venom. Like
Oh.
they left like I count Spider-Man as Marvel because like they have that deal worked out.
Sure.
But like Sony just seemingly ended Venom in their universe and then gave Venom to Marvel.
Right.
So like I don't know. That's interesting. And then haven't announced anything.
Right.
That they're
So
that they're
speaking of
gonna
like
do.
the future of Sony, the future of Venom, whatever. Before we get into like the credit scene or what happened at the very end, let's give it our rating before we move on to like what's beyond it. I would give this movie, I think if I'm being honest with myself, a 6.5 or 7.
Yeah, I was gonna say 7 came into my head, and then I was like, no, I think 6.5. So I would agree with 6.5. Yeah,
Yeah, I think
it's not a bad movie by any means. I mean, there's plot holes, but it's a Sony movie, so like we expect that.
I think that
So
is lower. We both gave a lower score than we gave Venom 1 and Venom 2,
right,
which I think is fair. I don't think it
yeah,
was as good as either of the first two.
I think it's because the first and the second movie,
Mhm.
the third act made sense
And
to
had a
it. Like
true
it was this
villain.
big build up. It had a singular villain. It had a singular villain that was throughout the entire movie.
Mhm.
And it grew that character into the bad person they were, and then Venom fought him,
Yeah.
and Venom won. So yeah, 100%. And then this one, it was like, well, the big bad villain is this Null guy. So like, when is he going? Oh, he's not.
And the
Okay.
xenomorphs are kind of easy to beat because as soon as I turn back into Eddie, I can walk away calmly and they won't even try to chase me.
Yeah.
So
Unless I'm making a ton of noise and like egging them on, like then they will eat me. Like they did eat some humans, but like
but they were shooting
they're
at him.
freaking out or shooting at him, right? So yeah.
The villain in this, like having zero villain, nothing really felt like it was at stake. I understand Null was going to destroy everything, but nothing really ever felt threatening because the xenomorphs were so easily beaten. Like even when they were able to separate Venom and Eddie, I was like, oh, okay. Well, I mean, even if they do that, like if this is how they happen to die, at least we know Null can't be freed. Like
Right.
nothing ever felt that at stake. So
Right.
um, that was I think because of that haphazardness and the lack of a true villain, it missed what the first two movies had
Right.
with continuity, something to be worried about. This one was more so like, we have to make this movie, so here's what we're going to give you some stuff we know you want, but we're also going to wrap things up poorly because we have to, not
Yeah, where
because
it's like we got
to.
the first two acts of this written, and then we're just gonna change the font to all the symbols and go from there. Like that's how it felt.
We're gonna switch. We're gonna speak in English the whole way, and then it's Simish for the last
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
Wananina, whoa.
It's a boo boo. Yeah, that's what it felt like. That's what it felt like to me. It was just kind of like confusing, but
Yeah, we're on the
Sony,
same
so I
page
give them,
there.
I give them, I give them the benefit of the doubt because it's Sony.
Yeah,
So
this is the best Sony could give us because they don't try.
exactly.
When it comes to the Marvel products, like Sony doesn't seem to try at all.
No,
It's
I
so
know.
crazy.
Like it's like at some point, don't you just go to Kevin Feige and be like, hey, help?
It makes me wonder if it's because it's a non-American based company that it makes me wonder if they don't have any people.
Yeah, but Amy Pascal, like,
it just makes me wonder if like the people at the very top have a different target audience in mind, whereas like so they're focused less on comic book accuracy because they don't care about the comics, something
right,
like that.
or world building,
Right. It just makes me wonder if maybe upper management is the biggest problem, since that seems to be most places of business.
Sure.
But I don't know. Sony, this was what I expected. I came into this movie expecting a 7, got about a 6.5. It's
Sure.
it was perfectly Sony. You came
Right.
in with a
Yeah,
certain
100%.
expectation and they slightly underdelivered.
Right.
Even if you set a very low expectation, like with Madam Web, we were expecting like a 4 and it was a 2. Like,
yeah, it was not. But that's Sony.
That's Sony. That's just happens to be what they do.
Right.
So maybe they have a future, maybe not. If they do have a future, we saw a credit scene in which Null said he was still coming after them. And then we have a little thing with the cockroach that looks like it's sniffing, I don't know, at a broken vial. Earlier in the movie, Dr. Payne mentioned that cockroaches survive anything. They've been around for 200 million years. They can survive nuclear blasts.
Right.
So we knew that when all those explosions happened and they showed the cockroach, it was like, oh, it survived. The cockroach did look like it had like a black sheen potentially
Yeah, I'll
to
have
it.
to rewatch that.
Yeah.
I'll have to like rewatch that, but yeah.
I wasn't sure if that was like if it was actually a venom cockroach, but I did think it looked like it was a broken vial, which before, while the credits were all rolling and stuff, I mentioned like what happened to that tiny container
Piece of Venom,
piece
right?
of venom that was left at the bar. So
Right.
there was a piece of venom that still existed, and I think like I felt like they showed that to show you, hey, venom, that tiny tiny piece of venom is actually still out there.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And Venom said it's not goodbye, it's goodbye for now.
Right.
So I think that was their way of saying Tom Hardy's Venom is done, but if we do need Venom back, there is a piece out there that exists.
Sure.
So
Sure.
yeah.
It's confusing too, just because there is a lot of I don't know. There's like a lot of people that Venom has attached to, so it's like, yeah, I don't know how they want to do, because like Sony doesn't necessarily own all of those, and like the biggest one I think of is like Mac Gargan, right? Like Scorpion. Like if you want to make it a villain again, but Scorpion exists in our world, so.
And we also saw Scorpion ripping through in the sky when they were in the No Way Home.
Right. So there is a world where a Scorpion exists, but there's no reason to believe that Scorpion exists in this world.
We also know Kraven is not Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, so Kraven could be the Venomverse universe.
Yeah,
because it's a way different Rhino in Kraven than we got in
Andrew Garfield. Yeah, exactly. So
just so
yeah, dude, it's just all over the place. Ugh. So, but like Morbius is seemingly in Venom's world,
right? Which is seemingly in Andrew Garfield's or Tom Holland's, because Vulture was there.
Well, Vulture came in after the fact, like after the like No Way Home thing.
Oh, okay.
He broke the time or universe travel thing that Marvel did. That Marvel set up. Sony's just like, well, this will work, and Sony, it's just had nothing to no recollection of like what Marvel was doing with their thing. So, yeah, I don't know.
It's, all of that, like, so if they don't move forward with Venom, there is still a symbiote out there that is not Venom too, which is the super speedy lady, which trying to look it up, I couldn't find out who she was, what that symbiote is called.
Yeah,
if it's like a original character, but she was charged with electricity and could move at like super speed.
Yeah.
So that's a cool symbiote, but I'm sorry. I don't like speaking poorly on actors or anything like that. I don't need to see that lady in another movie.
Right. Like, yeah. I think that symbiote should probably just kill her and then attach to like Christmas or something.
Or the lady that was attached to ZZZXX or whatever.
Yeah, the Christmas. Yep.
The Christmas. The one she was awesome. She was good.
Right. Yeah. She transferred Venom back to Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
Eddie Brock. Yeah.
And she was also like a good, like, I don't know. Yeah. I feel bad. But like, I don't need to see that symbiote on that lady. I would have much preferred keeping Christmas. Yeah. So again, if that was Sony's plan, like Sony did Madam Web, did it wrong. Sony is doing did Morbius or whatever, could have been cool, did it wrong.
Yeah.
Now if this is the direction they're going with Venom, it feels like they're just doing it wrong.
Yeah. Yep.
So it left me with very little hope for the future of Sony's Spider-Verse.
Right.
And it makes me kind of hope that this is the last that we see of
the last dance for Sony.
I do hope that this is like Sony's last dance. And speaking of that, if Kraven is even worse than like a 6.5, like we just said. Like Sony Craven has to be better than like all
Venom.
3 Venoms.
Yeah, it has to be better than Venom, and
It
that's
has
saying
to be better
a
than
lot
Venom. And
because it's
based on
not
the
as big of a
trailers, it's
character.
not gonna be.
Yeah, it's gonna. The action scenes are gonna be sick.
Yeah, and it's gonna be rated
Like,
R,
yeah,
which is
it's gonna
something
be
we
sick.
want.
But is it too little, too late?
Right? Is it too little, too late? And because you've destroyed every other product you have, is there any cool cameo that you can throw in that comic book nerds love? It doesn't feel
There's
like
only one. There's only one that we've wanted for 6 Spider-Man 6 Sony Universe of Marvel character movies.
Andrew Garfield.
It's just a Spider-Man.
A Spider-Man. Yeah,
Just a Spider-Man. It could be Toby.
It could be.
I mean, Toby's 45 years old, or Peter Parker's probably 45 years old in that universe.
They could have Morbius, I guess. But like, yeah, you don't have any well-liked cameos that could show up because you killed Venom. We don't really want to see the new symbiote in Craven because it doesn't make sense with the story.
Thinking about this, if say Michael Morbius at the end of Craven, he like they capture the Rhino. Okay, like say hypothetically they capture the Rhino and Morbius is trying to figure out a way to like unfuse him. Right?
Okay.
And you have Dr. Michael Morbius in there, and then he just jokes around and says it's Morbin time. That would break the internet.
It would.
That would break the internet. That's probably not the cameo we want, but at the same time, like that would get people talking.
Yeah, Jared Leto kind of ruined that though by doing that TikTok about it.
That little fake one, which was hilarious,
it was
really good. It was really good. Oh.
Yeah, it's just people don't like Jared Leto.
Oh, nothing. It sets down it's Morbius 2, it's Morbin time. It's funny.
I mean, I'd rather see a Morbius 2 than
it's
a 2.
Okay. And I'm probably gonna get flamed for this, but it's not as bad as people say.
That doesn't surprise me at all. Like people that haven't seen that movie say it's terrible. And that's just the way the internet is. They want to hop on what's popular, and it's sad, but because a lot of the time it happens on whatever you see, YouTube, Twitter, whatever you want. If you'll see a comment where somebody makes a comment purely because they know it's going to get them a whole bunch of likes or stuff or interactions. People
put it into perspective here. The critic rating for Morbius was 15%.
Right. It was better than
the audience rating was 71%. So the audience liked it. And maybe that's just a meme, but out of 5,000 plus ratings, I would have to guarantee that most people did enjoy the movie.
Exactly. And I think people that talk about it, they would rather talk negatively about it because it makes them look better in the eyes of these complete strangers on the internet. They can get more likes by saying Morbius sucks than they do by saying, Morbius is actually kind of like, it's not bad. Like it's not great, but it's not bad.
Yeah.
Again, for a Sony product, it's not bad.
Right.
Like, I don't know. And what's his name? Matt
Smith is
Matt
great.
Smith is awesome.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think people hop on to what's popular and they don't form their own opinions. So
100%.
I don't think you are crazy to say it's not that bad. Morbius is not that bad. Just like
it's not.
we
I think you would like it.
Web.
Yeah.
We found some positives. The first 10 minutes of the movie.
They were good. The first 10 minutes was good.
Yeah.
It was a good movie.
Adam Scott was good.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just
then the rest of it was Sony.
Yeah.
But at least now we know like Sydney Sweeney can be Black Cat if she wants, or
they didn't tie that to anything. They didn't tie that to anything.
So maybe Venom comes back as the cockroach and becomes somebody else. Maybe he comes back as like Flash Thompson. Maybe the future of the symbiotes is the super speed lady. I honestly think like they're leaving that in the back pocket in case.
The fact
that
Sony hasn't announced anything else
terrifying.
is terrifying. Like, well, it's not terrifying. It's just like, are they giving up? And if they are giving up, then does that mean Disney's preparing to purchase the rights back. Like,
if it's not Disney, it'd be Apple.
right.
I think if Sony is giving up, there's a good chance that we see Apple buy the Spider-Man product, and then you'll end up seeing like an Apple's universe of that. That's
Sure.
that. If I had to make a prediction, I think Apple is gonna. If Sony is giving up on Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse, I think Apple buys it.
Sure.
Which is, we don't know how that'll go. They have a lot of money to put into products, and hopefully they would do it right, but we'll see.
Right. I mean, just work in conjunction with Disney. I mean, they've got a path, you know what I mean? So
Right, and they were already in talks with buying Disney, so we'll see.
yeah, it's all confusing, but just the fact they haven't announced anything, and yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So that's, again, that's what we have to say about this movie, and how exactly what we said about 60 times during this whole discussion, this review, this breakdown, whatever you want to call it, reaction. We said the phrase "I don't know" or "so yeah" a lot. And that's because that's how we feel about Sony in general. And this movie is genuinely an epitome of what Sony has given us thus far.
Yeah, 100%.
This is the most Sony product we have seen. And not saying it's horrible. Again, 6.5 is higher than average is for 5 to me. So 6.5, slightly better than an average Sony movie. But is the epitome of a Sony movie.
Yeah. Agreed.
Let us know what you think about that. What, have you seen it yet? Even after watching all this, getting some spoilers, would you want to go see it? I still recommend seeing it, and I say go ahead and support Venom, because a lot of people, the credits were extremely long. A lot of people went into creating this movie, and you always want to support people that create movies. Don't kill movie theaters, but I hope movie theaters start lowering prices soon, because Jesus. But yeah, go see movies. Go see movies, and if you want to go see a movie, make Venom one of them. There's also some other good movies out there, but go see Venom. Don't buy the popcorn bucket because it doesn't seem worth it. Yeah, let us know what you think. I want you all to know that you look phenomenal today. GG.
GG.
Don't wanna sleep in, cause I got something to prove. I gotta take what I hate and finally make a move. I think of you and all the shit you don't do. Well, I'ma make hella sure that I don't become you. Have no regrets, yeah, I'm tired of my chest.